Hey everybody, welcome back to your Dawn of Drones podcast. I am Dawn Zoldi, your host and the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting. We are in August, and this month we are dedicating to developing industry leaders. And we have an incredible leader with us today in her own right, and one who is really forging the future of the drone workforce, Bronwyn Morgan. So welcome, Bronwyn.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So glad to be with you always, Dawn.
Well, let me just tell everybody, first of all, reminder, this is live, so we know you're out there. Drop where you're from, your questions, your positive encouragement, drop it all in the chat. We love all of that. Second thing I want to do is thank Skydio for sponsoring this month. And by the way, if you missed last week's episode where I had the actual and incredible privilege of being live in San Mateo, California at Skydio's headquarters with Anna Wiesenthal Birch. That was so awesome. Go back and watch that on demand. And if you missed any of our past episodes, check them out on DroneLife TV and subscribe to their YouTube channel. So let's move on, Bronwyn. You are finally here. I'm so excited. Bronwyn and I have done so many things together, but she's never actually been on this podcast. And so, Bronwyn, I can't even tell you like what an honor personally this is for me. And I'm going to brag on Bronwyn for just a second before I let her talk. Okay, so here we go. This lady, number one, was the 2021 Women to Watch Iris Automation Entrepreneurship Award winner. So that was for their 5th anniversary last year. So, and when you hear about her, you're going to know why. She has been in the tech industry for so long, not just drones. She has 30 years of experience, including 16 at P&G and the Coca-Cola Company, working in strategy, sales, and innovation. When you think of Coca-Cola, I think of DroneUp delivering their sodas, right? But like, and now, not only is she CEO and founder of Airversity, but also Zeo Air, Move, MOUVUAM, and the nonprofit Black Women in STEAM. So we're going to roll through all of these. It's a lot of ground to cover, but we're going to do it. So let's start, Bronwyn. First of all, a little bit about your background, because I mean, you have been clearly a serial entrepreneur. You've got this incredible wealth of experience. What, kind of what led up to that? What led up to your interest in technology and in particular drones?
Well, Dawn, the story goes back, and anybody that knows me after the last several years, and some didn't know, my love for aviation and aerospace since I was a kid. Always wanted to work in this space. Wanted to be a fighter pilot. Women couldn't fly fighters when I came out of high school, so going to the Air Force Academy, I could have done that and then maybe flown, larger aircraft, but I was like, it's not what I really wanted to do. Many years later, after a corporate career, P&G and Coke, you mentioned that, I became an entrepreneur. I was just honestly tired of the corporate hustle, and started off in an industry that had nothing to do with what I'm doing today. But it was a chance for me to, I think, exercise my creative capabilities and just learn who I was outside of this corporate framework and titles and a resume, related to that, and experience me in a whole different dimension, learn more about what I am and what I can do. And a lot of things happened over time, became the Associate Director of Entrepreneurship and and Innovation at Georgia State University, became an innovation consultant, working on a lot of different projects, tech-wise, consulting with Fortune 500 companies. And when drones came up as a civilian commercial opportunity, I thought, oh, this is my time. And so studied, got the Part 107, and started working on my business models. And now, as you kind of read off this litany of companies, I'm working on 2 primarily, and a third's kind of in the wings, no pun intended. But I love this space. You know, I really do. On my desk, I keep my little astronaut. I don't know if you can see it with my background, but it just
Yeah, we
constantly,
kind of see him in and out. Yeah,
yeah,
we
there he
see him.
goes.
He's so
That
cute.
reminds, that reminds me every day of exactly of aviation, aerospace, space, everything that we're working on. And so it's exciting because especially for drones because this is new.
Yeah,
We haven't had a lot of new innovation in aviation and aerospace that civilians could jump on readily. And
yeah.
so this has become a great passion
Well,
and
you raise
job.
a great point. I think, the military obviously has been innovating and, behind the scenes until more recently out in front, with the commercial sector, but they've been bubbling, new technologies forever, including with the commercial sector. I just think with AFWorks and the Defense Innovation Unit, it's just more out there now in a way that it has not historically been. But Bronwyn, by the way, I have to say, Brett Fedderson is out there. And he's saying amazing background, Bronwyn. Thank you for speaking today. And I agree, of course,
Thanks,
Brett.
Brett.
Thank you for being with us. And like I said, drop your notes in the chat. We love you guys. So the drone thing, which company did you create first? Was it Airversity or was it ZeoAir?
There was a form of Airversity before it became Airversity, and I decided, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the training part. And so I stepped back and I recalibrated, and CO Air was born. Drone services, outsourced drone services, data analytics, autonomous solutions, and we're primarily focused on infrastructure, inspection and mapping, climate and environmental observation, and disaster and catastrophe response with a lot of tech and capability. And that was a great intersection of my business background, my tech experience, and then my tech goals, and where I thought the real opportunity was. And then after a while, I recognized that there was a need to build my pipeline and also the pipeline of the industry and how could I contribute more largely. And Airversity came to bear. So focus on professional drone pilot training. And making sure that people are very well skilled because unless you go out and get a couple of jobs, it's hard to upskill yourself over time. And so just like with any job, you go and they're like, well, what's your experience? And you're like, well, I've done this. Well, that's not enough. And you're like, well, how do I get more? That's why I'm here. I'd like to get more. So how do we help upskill people? And that's
Yeah.
kind of my focus.
Well, look, you got your cred points, right, through Zero Air because you were out there doing it. So, I obviously I think it's super helpful if you're going to teach it to have actually done it. And, so it makes sense that you kind of step back initially from the training and went out there, kind of got got that critical experience. And it sounds like, when you're talking disaster response, critical infrastructure. I mean, these are not simple operations.
No, they're not.
I mean, we're not just talking, and not to denigrate, right, real estate photography, but in a disaster scenario, I'm preaching the choir here, Bronwyn. Not only if it's weather, whatever, there's always going to be something you're contending with, including maybe
Absolutely.
comms that aren't working.
Yeah,
And then, of course, critical infrastructure, the dangerous nature of flying close to some of those structures.
absolutely.
So that's unbelievable. We have a couple photos. We're gonna go a little out of order here, so I'm asking Mike, our producer, to forgive me. But Brahman, I think we have a really cool picture of you in a command center when you were doing some of these elite. There we go. Some of these elite drone services for Zeo Air. So I don't know if you can share with us just real quick, maybe kind of one vignette or one story, like maybe one of the most memorable operations that you've been involved in.
Well, one of the ones that really comes to mind and is kind of a to me best in class for us at least is hurricane response and flying for a major partner customer, if you will. And we were, I had my pilots pre-positioned saying, hey, we know this hurricane's about to hit. Are you ready to go? And they're like, yeah, we are. And I'm in the Midwest, they're in the Southeast, and we were able to get on site. And due to the experience of the team, the equipment capabilities and availability, we were able to get on site. We were able to have, police escorts to get to places that other people weren't able to get to.
Wow.
And it was, real time. You had to get this information because this was critical. It was all happening at the same time, whether it was for, a private sector client and or, public.
Yeah.
Got to get images of the dam and by a certain time of day, and you've got still a lot of the obscuration of the sky, but trying to get get those images, flooded roads, just making sure that there was access. And the other big thing that you mentioned was all the other potential hazards, working with the FAA real time
Yeah.
on the phone to say, hey, do we have enough time to get in there and get these images? This was beyond just using an app. This is real time engagement. And them saying, yeah, you probably got about 30 minutes before we've got to, we're going to reduce the ceiling and you can't get what you need. Actually
Wow.
working with the local military base, telling someone on my team, hey, call the air boss and tell them this. And they're like, they're never going to do that. And I'm like, say this. And air boss shutting down the airfield and saying, you know what? You got it. Go ahead and do what you need to do. Call us back as soon as you're done. And then if you need us to shut it down later, give us a call back. Then, at the end of the day, my pilots are trying to upload data real time to the customer. I'm, playing, mission commander at the time. Not a plan, I'm doing it. And, I'm on the phone, tell the customer, you go to sleep. I'll text you. You don't have to worry. We've got it. And my guys trying to carjack me. And because they've got, this big SUV with all this equipment, and the generators are kind of down to just the last little bit of power, but we were able to get data to with so little infrastructure to support what we were doing, of the infrastructure that we were analyzing. And we did it safely within regulation. And that's important to me. Making sure that we do that safely, securely, professionally during the challenge, and then being able to provide that data, analyze those trends.
Yeah, absolutely. So we, ironically, before we got on today, we talked about how things have been going so well with our connectivity and whatnot. And Brown, I see you're a little choppy, so I don't know if you want to just check your
Oh,
internet connection real quick, because it
yeah.
seems like everything else is kind of in line. But uh, so this amazing experience and all the other ones you racked up inspired you to create Airversity to build the workforce of tomorrow. So tell us a little bit more about Airversity. What is it about? Where is it located? And kind of what are the major components?
Right. Well, Airversity is dedicated to professional drone pilot training. And we are focused on corporate, commercial, as well as public safety pilots, and ensuring that we take people through the Part 107. We actually just had some folks in from a local municipality this past week, got them through the Part 107. I mean, they've had online, in person. They are ready to go to take the exam, and then flight training, various levels from beginning to intermediate to advanced. And we're also introducing our geospatial classes, which will be launching in the next couple of weeks so that people can really now understand geospatial data and what that means in our industry. We've partnered with, companies like FLIR's Training Center. We'll be doing our thermal classes. We've
Oh,
got
wow.
classes on hyperspectral and multispectral coming. And so it's not just Part 107. This is really a very well-rounded education in drone operations, whether you are a pilot or whether you are in another capacity in the industry.
So do you have 11 physical locations for Airversity right now?
Right now we have two, Atlanta and St. Louis, which is also where ZEO is placed, but we have the ability with trainers in 10 other cities, 9 other cities, to actually execute our program.
Gotcha. So and you also have like an online component as well as physical in-person training?
Right. So we have an online class that we've partnered with UAV Ground School with for the online portion of Part 107. And a lot of our classes, quite honestly, we probably will be doing, like our geospatial class will be online because it'll be available to anyone globally. And I've just found that since the pandemic, people are much more comfortable time-wise and proximity-wise to do online classes versus in person and live. So in many instances, we're going to try to push as much to online as possible, and I think that makes it so much easier for people everywhere to get engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, the online component for knowledge and understanding is super helpful. And like you said, very efficient. I would think for actual skills to have like hands-on with a
Yeah, the flight
trainer.
classes we have to do in person. Yeah,
Yeah, I really,
yeah,
like I know some companies have simulators and especially in advanced air mobility, we'll talk about that here shortly. People are going to that model, but I imagine nothing really, almost like conferences, right? Like nothing beats a real in-person experience when you get to see
absolutely.
people and meet people, but like with that equipment and getting the touch and feel and having somebody next to you to say, hey, you might want to do it this way in real time, I think is invaluable. So that's super cool that you've got all of these satellite folks helping you with the live aspect, and you're pushing out as much globally as possible, and nuance training. That's really key. So tell us about your center of excellence in St. Louis.
Yeah, so we launched that last year, and it was a destination for this training. And it was, a place where we could develop these classes and kind of, be in one location here. We're right outside of St. Louis in a town called Festus. And we're going to be actually making some changes to some of our flight locations here. In Atlanta, we are doing our classes at Peachtree DeKalb Airport, and we now have a new flight field just west of no, east, I'm sorry, east of Atlanta. So two centers of excellence, and we hope to open more. And over time, we'll be able to, afford a larger location, a larger space. But we've got great partners that allow us to house ourselves in their aviation, backdrops. And so this is working out very well.
That's so cool. And I think we have maybe a photo of one of the events that you had at St. Louis. Mike, if you wouldn't mind dropping that one, and maybe Bronwyn can talk us through. So I believe this is maybe one of your interns.
Yeah, that was one of our interns, Nico, and we were actually showcasing some equipment with a partner of ours at the show, and just demonstrating how we work as an industry to other partners and folks that we invite.
Yeah, looks like we're having some connection problems.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
I think I'm back.
I think you're back.
Can you hear me?
I think
And so.
you're getting a signal. Hmm.
Yes, I apologize. This building has a couple of high security locations in it that I'm in, and it creates sometimes some significant interference. I apologize. But yeah, so we're showcasing new technology, how we use it. We had public safety partners, we had the FAA there, we had private sector companies come, and people in the community in the St. Louis regional area, geospatial folks and others who wanted to understand more about drones and unmanned and uncrewed systems, rather.
Well, first of all, I love that you're doing the kind of public outreach, but I don't want to gloss over the fact that you have an intern. So let's talk about some of the job opportunities and internships, because I was so impressed with Skydio. Also talking to Anna last week, and some of the things they're doing with like local high schools and bringing some of those girls into Skydio to shadow people, all different career fields, to get a no kidding boots on the ground understanding of what could be the future. So tell us about like what you're doing in that realm.
Yeah, so we've had interns every year. Whenever I go speak at places, I tell people I don't do interns, and I've had one every year. So we've had a high school intern, we've had college interns, and it's been great. So we actually have an intern this summer who is awesome, Marcus, who is an aerospace engineer, and he is fantastic, out of St. Louis University. And this has been great. Our interns have come from Atlanta. They've come from St. Louis. They've been at Stanford. They've just a bunch of different universities. We also have 4 PhD interns that we're working on a
Wow.
partnership with Missouri S&T, New York Stony Brook, Iowa State, who are all amazing and fantastic. And it's so important for me to help develop these new folks and the skill sets in this industry. And they all bring a different aspect of knowledge and wisdom and interest. And the aerospace young man, I took him to the STEM Air Show recently, and we got to see the F-35s fly and the Blue Angels, and he was like, oh my God, this is the best internship. And he's getting to work on real world projects. This is this,
Yeah.
get the coffee. This is real world stuff. And it's, he's cycling through a lot of different things, from dev projects, data projects, design and engineering development projects, working with professionals. And so this is exciting to watch, and to be a part of, and to really mentor folks in this way.
Well, I love that. And Brown, let's talk offline because, I'm hoping to build out the scholars program for the Law Tech Connect workshop with AUVSI Exponential next year. And so maybe let's line up some of these folks to, for these scholarships, and hopefully we'll get the right sponsors. But so you mentioned, kind of in passing, some of your partners, a number of these universities. So who else are you partnering with? I mean, you've got all these satellite people out there. You've got an extensive network. Are there any companies you might want to name drop?
Sorry, we just had another frequency interruption, but yeah, wow, we've got loads of partners, both on the academic side. We also have partners on the media side of things. We've got partners, and I'm just going through my head. We're a part of the T-Rex Innovation Center here in St. Louis, focused on geospatial innovation. Down in Atlanta in Peachtree Corners with Curiosity Lab, that's working on advanced autonomous capabilities and artificial intelligence. Various universities, St. Louis University, WashU. And so this is what makes this really and fun. And I sit on a couple of different boards that are really incredible to be a part of, in terms of shaping what's coming next across the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's go back to Zio Air for a second. So you're juggling Airversity, you're juggling Zio Air, but let's talk for a second about your podcast, because you mentioned media, you have media partners in all of your efforts, but you're also kind of a media partner in your own right. So tell us about the Zio Air podcast and what inspired that.
Yeah, so ZeoCast came out during the pandemic, and you we were just kind of sitting around and figuring out, like, what's next? What do we do? And so
Right,
I said,
right.
you know what, I'm going to start a podcast. And it has been great. We have interviewed industry across, drones and AI and geospatial.
Yep.
We've talked to folks like Dennis Mullenberg, former CEO at Boeing. We've talked to folks from Esri, academics, Dawn. We've talked with you. We've done the show live on video, not just audio, at AUVSI now for two seasons.
Yep,
And
yep.
we've talked to folks from MITRE, Mass Robotics. I mean, the list just goes on. Iris Automation. The list just goes on and on. Sharon Rossmark from Women in Drones. And it's just great to get that industry perspective around, what's happening, what are people thinking about, what are they doing? And then also sometimes in very obscure parts of the industry, things that kind of are, the behind the scenes stuff that makes everything work, some of the tiny parts, and it's not always just the big glossy stuff, but without the tiny parts, the big stuff doesn't work. So getting, a lot of perspective on the future and then the current.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we just dropped the ZeoCast link there. So if you're not listening to it, go ahead and do that. It's a great show. I do send a lot of my colleagues and clients to Bronwyn because she does such a spectacular job. Just one of many things she's doing. Speaking of which, you said that you have this third company bubbling out there, kind of, waiting in the
Yeah.
wings, so to speak. Move, MOUVUAM.
Yeah.
So tell us about this company because look, Bronwyn, both you and I know drones, we are at an inflection point. We are so close to getting there, to really opening this
Yeah.
industry up, right? We just need a couple more
Absolutely.
regs and a little bit a little bit more tweaking on some of the tech,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
UAM, urban air mobility, advanced air mobility, that is the next wave. So tell us about what you're doing with Move.
Yeah, so Move is dedicated to training. Again, once again, leveraging the training capability of, what it's going to take in the industry, both from a first generation aspect of pilot training to other operational roles. And we're just kind of watching the industry because I've got my hands full right now. I've got a partner on that one, on Move that is. And, I've talked to almost every manufacturer in the industry. We've talked to folks outside the U.S., and it will be very interesting to see how this all blossoms. Also doing some consulting work with some major entities here in the U.S. on how they should think about it.
Yeah.
Medical cargo first probably, and then really start to build out that business model on the human passenger piece. So this is going to be extremely interesting. And to your point, Don, you're right. We've got to perfect BV laws, the regulations that will support this new type of aircraft, the certification standards. And it'll be interesting to see a sky now filled with, a different kind of aircraft and new and unique types of transportation. We just had Peter Schmidt on ZeoCast from Transcend, and that just hits right in the middle of what I'm thinking about. So I love, obviously drones we still have a long way to go. We're still a very young and new industry, but you kind of can't help but be pulled in this other space as well on urban air mobility. So that one's kind of on the back burner, cooking in the background, but we look forward to growing that opportunity and that business as well.
Yeah, it's so funny and interesting, Bronwyn, because last week I was in San Francisco at that Future of Aviation conference, co-sponsored by UC Berkeley and Caltrans, and we kind of talked about this idea. There's your AAM crowd, there's your drone crowd, and I was there. Tony Drummond, right, from Prestige Air Group and Global Aerial Management Group, we were both there, and I straddle both worlds. Tony actually straddles both, plus general aviation. And the key thing is there's so many lessons to be learned from the drone space for the advanced air mobility space, plus also from general aviation as well. This is not let's reinvent the wheel like whole cloth, right? So
Right.
I think light bulbs were going off in a lot of people's minds last week for the first time as they
Right.
realized like, yeah, we probably need to look at that. And then there's some, issues that we're talking about in advanced air mobility that aren't really coming up in the drone space, but you would think would be like noise. Like
Right.
drones like may not be super loud, but tonally they're kind of annoying. And when you
Yeah.
think about public acceptance, it's not necessarily even how loud something is, it's how annoying it sounds to somebody. Like a
Right.
bee buzzing by your ear might be tiny and that might not be loud, but that noise is going to, and you know what I mean? So there's so much crossover. I would love to see better crosstalk between those two, let's just call them crowds. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you're one of those people that could do that as well. So I hope as you're looking towards next year and kind of planning this out, maybe seeing you at some of these advanced air mobility events as well, because I feel like people would really benefit from your knowledge and experience in the drone world in that other sector that you're also looking to break into.
Right.
And, Bronwyn, since we're talking about developing industry leaders and workforce development, we talked a lot about training. What do you like? What would you say to people out there are like the new careers, the opportunities that are going to be out there, whether it is in drones or advanced air mobility?
Oh, wow. Where do I start? I mean, we've crafted roles already in our plans and our strategy that don't exist yet. That you can't go out right now and find them on Indeed or anywhere. And it's
Right,
roles that we know that we are going to need, and from an operational perspective, a maintenance perspective, working on new elements of like our autonomous systems that it doesn't exist today.
right.
The product is in design, and so now you've got to have someone go out and be responsible for maintaining that. And it's not just the drones, it's all the ancillary elements around it.
Yeah,
And 5G and the new tech, we need new software developers. The roles are we're going to be bursting at the seams. I think in one of my documents and presentations, I talk about in the U.S. about 300,000 new jobs, and I think that's a very conservative estimate over the next 5 years, because as we go deeper into autonomy and AI, we just don't have enough STEM tech capability in terms of the education and of the people. We don't have enough people. We don't have enough folks, kids in the pipeline to pull from.
yeah,
And this is a real challenge that we've got. And it's not just, for our industry, but there are roles both on the ZO Air side, the Airversity side, and sometimes I'll put out a request, for resumes, and I don't get what I'm looking for because folks
wow,
just don't yet have the experience. And
yep,
so whether it's instructors, design capabilities, um, mission commanders, all these things. There's a lot of new roles. Pilots on the UAM side, the advanced air mobility side, probably taking from fixed wing pilots, but now there's a whole gap right now in pilot talent.
right,
And we as an industry, while we're growing and we're unique and it's all this cool and fancy tech, do we have the staff to pull from? Do we have the pipeline? Do we have the talent? Do we have the skills? And the answer is no. And it has to be developed. And I'm seeing a lot of projects here in the St. Louis region, in the Atlanta region, where people are now recognizing like we've got to build up the workforce. And so therefore the curriculum has to be updated.
yeah, yeah. Now we've talked quite a bit, almost like at that collegiate level, right? The post grad, types, maybe some advanced degrees. What I love about this industry, though, is you don't, you can be 16 and get your Part 107. And, if you do that enough and you, like, just say someone works with somebody like you as an apprentice, you can become quite the expert. So here's my question to you, Bronwyn. What would you say to those people that might suggest that, hey, in 5, 10 years, RPA, right, remotely piloted aircraft pilots, or RPICs, are going to be obsolete because everything is going to be autonomous? What would you say to somebody who would suggest something like that?
Yeah, and I say that often too. I tell folks, hey, we're not going to be behind the controller for much longer. But there's a lot in the middle of that as well, safety and testing and all. But and once we get this, BV loss down and autonomous systems down, and we feel good about the safety record, then we're off to the races. But I tell everybody, but I still need the talent. I still need people who understand regs because they're going to be
Yep.
behind the screen. And so everything that we're doing in automation management on the ZO Air side on our platform, I need people behind the screen that will be managing the missions. Of course, all the dev people working, in real time, 24/7. So these, the shifts, if you will be running all day,
Yeah.
so that we can maintain our operations over time, and then folks out in the field. So you may not necessarily be behind the controller anymore, but we still, as humans, have that human computer interface and human equipment interface, and we still need to manage, maintain, and ensure that we're operating, to spec, because anything can happen, of course, with machinery, and it will go
Right.
down, it will crash, as witnessed here, and you've got to be able to respond to that because this is a highly hazardous industry. And so if you don't have those folks in place, you're gonna have trouble. It's just like if you go to the store, and I always do the self-checkout now. I love that. But then I get there with something that won't ring up or there's a problem, and I hit the button and I'm just looking around waiting for somebody to come. I still need a human to fix that. Now, once we
Yep.
get to a point where that can be fixed without a human, there's a robot there, somebody, but I still need some assistance because things are bound to go wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we've been talking a little bit about the military and its playbook, and especially when you're talking about lethal operations potentially, right? There's going to be a human in the loop, and even today for just the ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance missions, you got folks, they might be in a trailer, they might be 3,000 or farther miles away, but you still have the humans involved in that, right? So I do see a role for humans for a very, very long time to come in all different kinds of capacities. And I'm not
Hmm.
really super worried about the robots taking over the planet because of drones. But let's pivot for a second and talk about your nonprofit, Bronwyn, because we're talking about inspiring workforces. We're talking about inspiring the future of this industry. You created this group called Black Women in STEAM, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, um, in Atlanta, I recognized that there were a whole bunch of us, Black women that is, who were working across tech and science, professors, private sector folks, doctors, surgeons, web developers, drone folks. I mean, just doing so many different and unique things. And we needed to have a place to come together to kind of galvanize the relationships, a need to look at, opportunities together to network. And, we hosted loads of events, even some involving the community at large around how do we plan for the future of work, the fourth industrial revolution. How do we do that and include diversity as a part of that?
Yep.
And now we've got a following on LinkedIn. I forgot how many people are in that, but some major companies have, their talent acquisition folks have jumped into the pot there, posting jobs and opportunities because, we are such a small percentage of pretty much every sector. If you break out all those women across the sectors that they represent, whether they were, orthopedists or whether they were academic, professors working on research around a certain technology, if they were tech folks, entrepreneurs, tech startup founders, very much overall. And when you look at funding on the tech side, as a founder, I get this, Black women receive less than 1% of all VC funding. So if you've got
Wow.
great ideas and you're bringing skill and you're bringing talent and passion. My team is all the Philippines, the U.S., Jamaica, and they're all backgrounds, all flavors of people, if you will, experiences, and if we don't ensure that you know there's a place for people to come together and grow and have opportunities, then we're going to miss out. Economically, we're going to miss out socially, culturally, and we can't. When I say we, the nation, we can't win if we don't have everybody working together, and we're going to miss out on some incredible opportunities if we do that.
No, I agree.
And
I
so that's
I
why,
had no
we came
idea.
together.
Brown, I had no idea about that statistic on VC funding. That's just downright frightening. And I think
It
it
is.
might be, and I think there might be people out there thinking, oh, minority entrepreneurs get a lot of grant money just because they're minorities or something like that. And it sounds like that is not the case.
No.
That's very eye-opening, and I love that you put this group together to kind of help it inspire each other, but also to lift each other up and posting those opportunities that are out there.
Right.
Diversity, this about me, diversity, equity, inclusion is something very important, and accessibility to me as well. And I love working with Sharon Rossmark, Women in Drones, and Marlene Dials, Diversity Development Network of Canada. Just everybody, spoiler alert, we will be putting out a 2022, our second UAS AAM industry survey on diversity, equity, inclusion. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, it's something, and I know there's statistics on engineers. I mean, we can slice and dice this all day long about what this looks like and what it should look like. So let me ask you this, Bronwyn. We've been kind of talking to collegiate level, professional level. What, if any, work are you doing kind of with the younger generations, kind of to expose them to these different career fields and these opportunities in the industry?
Yes, no, absolutely. So on the Airversity side, we have trained a lot of young folks on drone ops and how to fly a drone through kid boot camps. I just had someone in Atlanta send me a message on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I've got like 3 different groups that we'd like to do that." So we're going to probably do that on a one-off basis and really focus our time on adults. But we've trained quite a few. I sit in on a multitude of conferences and webinars to children. I speak at the St. Louis Science Center. I work with a local group called Gateway GIS, and we've got 2 upcoming classes with them. We did something else this summer as a part of a summer program with the St. Louis After School Labs. And so, it's important to be visible, and I want to make sure that I'm inspiring them, and they get to see it and they're curious. A lot of kids, when I ask them, we go to these different conferences or STEM shows, I'm like, "Have you flown a drone?" It's the first thing I ask them, and many of them say, "Yeah, I have. I've got one at home. It might be a little one, and I actually
Yeah.
have a box right here next to my desk. I'm about to send one off to a young lady, and this is exciting, but this is what we have to do, because it won't be long before these folks are ready to get into the market, to the job market.
Yeah.
And if you don't know it's there, you don't, it doesn't come up as an opportunity. You don't think about it. As a kid, I wanted to be a pilot, but that's because my dad, took me out and showed me all this heavy equipment, trains and stuff, just nerdy stuff, because my dad was a nerd. But now I rarely hear kids saying, "Hey, I want to be a pilot," or "I want to be an astronaut." I don't hear that. And
Yeah.
so how do we kind of spark this sparkle in their eyes? And so we do spend a lot of time doing that as a team, and me specifically.
No, well, thank you for doing that. I mean, clearly your business is geared towards the adult crowd. But for anybody out there, I mean, I think the message to industry is this. The reality is the education system isn't going to be buying drones, putting a drone in every kid's hand in elementary school, middle school, high school, probably not even at most colleges, right? So, so it's really, I think, up to industry to get out there and do some of the things like what you just said you're doing on a personal level, Bronwyn, and being that, that face of the industry to show people this is out there. So thank you for that. We only have a couple minutes left, so what I'd love to do is, Bronwyn, you tell us what's kind of coming up, where we can see you, anything
Yeah.
you want to close with before our time is done.
Yeah. No, thank you for all of this, Don. And first of all, you're just a bright star in this industry, and I love how you've just come in and brought all your experience and energy. And you are everywhere. It's not just dawn of drones. It's midday, nighttime of drones with Dawn. I mean, you are in all day parts, and I appreciate that. Um, yeah, we've got an upcoming Black Women in Drone Summit happening here in St. Louis.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
I'm working on that. There aren't a whole bunch of us, but it's a chance to come together and like, "Oh, wow, what are you doing?" And some women doing some amazing stuff out in the field, drone delivery and so many other things. So we're excited about that. And then on the Airversity side, we're about to launch our geospatial class online specifically for the drone industry. We've got our classes coming up on, thermal and infrared training, hyperspectral, multispectral. And then on the ZO Air side, we're just busy building out our opportunities for building our customer base. We're also working on all of our autonomous platforms, our own drone, and our other things that we're working on right now. So It's a busy, busy time for me and for our team. And yeah, so we're always open to new partners, funding, clients, sponsors for ZeoCast, folks that may want to be on the show that are, within the industry. So yeah, so these are all the fun things that are going on, and we'll probably be at a couple of upcoming shows. Won't make it to Las Vegas, unfortunately, but yeah, so just kind of keep watching, follow us on social. ZOAir and Airversity 107, and you can kind of find out what we're up to.
All right. Well, excellent. And that is kind of all she wrote for this episode. Thank you so much, Bronwyn. And again, ironically, we had a couple of glitches that we haven't had in a while,
Yes.
here, but it is what it is. The show must go on. I want to remind everybody tomorrow in Clubhouse Drone Law Connections, we have Josh Olds from the Unmanned Safety Institute. So check us out there, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And Josh will be on this podcast next week as well. So thank you, everybody, for watching. And thank you so much, Bronwyn, for being here. We are out here.
Thank you.